Hello, my friends. This morning I came across an article that was reposted on the Christie's Instagram account, which was titled The Top 10 Most Expensive Bags Ever Sold, or something along those lines. And what really piqued my interest is that the cover picture they used was of the Himalaya Birkin. So I figured it could be fun for us to read this article together and discuss everything that I know of some of the most expensive, most limited, most elusive Hermes bags, including the history, the heritage, and the real price of some of these bags, because they are not nearly as inflated as they are on the resale market and at auction houses. Not to say that any one of these bags are going to be for the faint of heart, because some of the bags that I assume we'll be looking at are going to be in the millions of dollars. And I have to be honest, obviously I don't have any personal experience buying any one of these ridiculously priced bags, but I've been buying Hermes for a really long time, and I do have some friends who are real collectors, and I definitely have some thoughts and opinions on some of these pieces. So without further ado, if you'd like to hear my thoughts on some of the most expensive, most outrageous Hermes bags out there, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on watching. So I'm going to make sure to have this article linked down below for you in case you want to have a look at it yourself. It is by WWD, and the first sentence is that for some, a purse is more than an accessory, it's an investment, which you guys know my thoughts on this idea of putting your money into bags. When it comes to investments, the way I look at my purchases is that when it comes to buying an Hermes bag, I know it's something that I'm going to have in my collection for a really, really long time. Hopefully for a lifetime. It's something that's going to stand the test of time. It's going to hold up beautifully. It's not going to go out of style. It's not usually something that I will get tired of. So it is a great investment into my collection, purely because I am going to be able to get my money's worth out of it. When it comes to making money on a bag or putting your money into a bag, hoping that you're going to be able to resell it later on for a profit, I think I shared this before. Obviously, do take my experience with a grain of salt, because I am not a reseller. The bags that I sold were mainly larger bags that I didn't use, so my Birkin 40s, all of which I actually lost money on. I didn't lose much. I mean, I guess I lost a couple $1,000s on each, which is a ridiculous amount of money now that I think about it. But it's not always the best investment to buy Hermes bags. And when it comes to some of these bags that we'll be looking at, which I assume are going to be extremely difficult to get bags, which, yes, if you do sell them on the resale market, if you sell them through an auction house, you're going to make quite a bit of a profit, because these bags don't cost nearly as much directly from the boutique as they do at auction houses. But you do have to keep in mind that when it comes to Hermes, you cannot just walk into the boutique and ask for a diamond encrusted Himalaya. These bags are so limited that they're reserved for the true, not even VIP clients, but VVVVV VIP clients. So for you to get that status at Hermes, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. You're going to have to spend a lot of time building your relationship with the brand. So yes, you might make a huge profit selling one of these bags, I assume, but you're also going to have to spend a lot of money at Hermes to be able to get that bag. So you might just come out even. It might not be as good of an investment as you think it is. Now, when it comes to a Chanel bag or another brand that you can just walk into the boutique, and if you have the money in your pocket, you can just get, I guess that's a different story. But with Hermes, you always have to keep in mind that it's not as simple as walking into the store off the street and asking for one of these bags. It is going to take years, if not decades, for you to earn the chance to get one of these bags, which I'm not saying is a good or a bad thing, but it is just how it works. So without further ado, let's look at the first bag, which is the Chanel Diamond Forever bag, which is a bag that I have seen before, never in person. It is a bag that was released, according to the article, in 2008. It was designed by Karl Lagerfeld, and it was auctioned for $261,000. $1,000. Now, obviously, Chanel no longer produces bags in exotic skins. They stopped that a few years ago, but you can still find exotic Chanel bags on the pre-loved market, including classic flaps. So I'm kind of shocked that this bag would cost this much. I assume it was either made of croc or alligator in this really beautiful. It kind of looks like it's being held by, I think this is Madonna, maybe? I think. And it seems like a bag that has this kind of bronzy metallic finish to it. Now I know that this bag, or at least the bag that I have seen pictures of, wasn't kind of like a creamy off-white color and it wasn't metallic, but it did have the same diamond encrusted clasp. And what made this bag even more special, in my opinion, is that it was a classic Chanel flap, but it actually featured the chain that you would find on the Chanel 2.55, which is my favorite detail on that bag. And when it comes to choosing between a Chanel 2.55 and a classic flap, I would personally go for a 2.55. I think even though it is the original Chanel bag, so in theory it should look more outdated than a classic flap, for some weird reason, it looks and feels a lot more contemporary and a lot more relevant than a classic flap does. Perhaps it's because it's not as overexposed as a classic flap is at this point. But anyway, going back to this bag, it is slightly different from a traditional classic flap, not only because of the chain, but also if you look at the clasp, the double C is framed here in this oval shape, which I don't like. I think it makes this bag look insanely cheap, which it is certainly not. All I have to say is that if you would like to get your hands on a really special Chanel bag, maybe one in exotic skin, you do not have to spend this kind of money. Look on the pre-loved market because you can find vintage Chanel bags that are either made of python or croc. And I'm pretty sure that Chanel at one point produced diamond encrusted bags for a fraction of this price. So I think the last bag I saw, I think it might have been on Fashion File or something along those lines, I did see a small classic flap made of python that featured a yellow gold double C clasp with pave diamonds. So I think the bag was around like $11,000, $12,000, $13,000, something like that. So it was a fraction of this price. But to be really honest with you, I don't think you should be spending this kind of money on any Chanel bag. Okay, the second bag is something that I am a lot more familiar with, which the one that we have here is a Birkin Faubourg from the second drop of Birkin Faubourg bags. So let's see what the article says. It says that these bags were first released in 2019. That is correct. The Faubourg Birkin resembles the an Hermes storefront, not an Hermes storefront, but it resembles the Faubourg flagship in Paris. So that's not correct. In recent years, Faubourgs have become among the most collectible Hermes bags, featuring alligator and chèvre. Yes, they do feature alligator. Where is the chèvre? Because most Faubourg bags don't feature chèvre, but the Faubourg Neige, which is the one that we're looking at here, is slightly different from other Faubourg bags, and I'll tell you exactly why that is. So I think the windows are made of blue chèvre here, which is different from other Faubourg bags, and I'll tell you exactly why that is. But anyway, going back to the article, Christie sold this rare 20 centimeter handbag. It is a Birkin 20 in cellular structure with palladium hardware for over $320,000. That is insane because I never bought this bag. I never asked about this bag. I do have a friend who collects them. There are 4 of these Faubourg bags at this point. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think this bag was like $50,000 when it first launched. So the fact that they sold this for $320,000, that is insane. I mean, it does make sense because these bags are so incredibly rare, and let me tell you why. So these bags were first introduced in 2019, and Hermes started by releasing 2 of them. So you had 2 Faubourg bags, which are so-called exceptional Hermes bags. I do have a video discussing the difference between exceptional and regular Hermes bags, and unboxing my first exceptional bag, which I will make sure to link up here. What you have to know about these pieces is that they are extremely limited. They are basically a chance for an Hermes craftsman to run crazy with their imagination. They don't have to be user-friendly, they don't have to be practical, and the Faubourg bags are definitely not, because they are 3-dimensional. They're almost like a little sculptural bag that you can carry around, it does feature the Hermes window displays, which actually extend beyond the body of the bag, which I think would make them quite tough and annoying to use. I mean, these are the kind of things that you'll really just, pull out to show up. These are not made to be used on a daily basis. But in case you want to know more about these pieces, there are 4 of them at this point. The first 2 were released in 2019. They had them in 2 colorways, which were called the Faubourg Day and then the Faubourg Night. And what made them really special, other than the fact that they featured this beautiful sculptural architectural detail of the window displays, is that they combined 4 different leathers. So the flap was made of matte alligator, the body of the bag was made of Madame, which is quite similar to Epsom, except the grains are a little bit finer. And then I think the windows were made of Swift and Epsom, and then the base of the bag was Sombrero. So I think that is 5 leathers, not just 4, but 4 or 5 leathers depending on which one you picked up. And these bags were revolutionary not only because they had this really incredible design to them, but also because they were in an extremely small size, in a Birkin 20, which is not something that we see often. And I almost forgot that this was at the very beginning of Hermes doing Birkins in cellier structure. So this not only featured this insane mind-blowing design, it was also in a tiny 20 centimeter size. It featured a combination of different leathers, which Hermes doesn't do often, and it was also in a cellier structure. So it was basically a collector's dream come true. So these really quickly became a status symbol and something that all Hermes collectors out there wanted to get their hands on. So in 2022, I think it was, Hermes released it in 2 additional colorways. They've released it in the midnight version, which was reminiscent of the So Black Birkin. So it featured So Black hardware and the majority of the bag being in black. And then the other colorway was the Faubourg Neige, which is the one that we're looking at here, which was slightly more expensive than other Faubourg bags because here it was the body of the bag that was made of matte alligator, and I think the color that they used here was Baton matte gator instead of just the flap being in exotic skin. Here it was a lot more exotic skin that you got for your money, and then the flap was made of white Togo. So I think these were somewhere along the lines of $50,000-$60,000, whereas the regular Faubourg bags were closer to $30,000-$40,000. Now again, do take my pricing with a grain of salt because I personally never purchased any one of these bags, but this bag was a lot more special than the other Faubourg bags. Not that any one of them are not special. If you're an Hermes collector, you're going to appreciate every single one of them, but this was slightly different than the rest of the Faubourg bags. And another detail that I'm noticing here, which is again quite rare for Hermes to do, is the fact that they used so-called blanc leather, which is Hermes' name for pure white leather, which Hermes has a lot of different shades in off-white and ivory, but the only pure white that they use is blanc, which is something that they really don't do often, especially at this point and in smaller bags. So this is truly an exceptional, really highly coveted bag, which clearly if you want to get your hands on the Preloved market, it is going to cost you. Okay, let's see the next bag that we have here, which was sold for almost $353,000. That is just ridiculous, but it is a feather embroidery. I don't think that's what this bag is called, but it's called the Selly Mosaic Kelly 32 with palladium hardware. So let's see what this article says. It says that this taupe Selly Kelly, I'm sorry, but I thought WWD was a legit fashion site. Yet, all I have to say is that if you're going to write an article about the most expensive bags ever sold and you're going to include Hermes bags, you should do a little bit of research or have someone who actually knows what they're talking about fact-checked these articles, because they're not really, they're not the most accurate, let me just say this. Or you can definitely tell that this person has never been to Hermes, which there's nothing wrong with, but then maybe don't write an article on the most expensive Hermes bags. Anyway, I digress. So it says that this taupe Selly Kelly, it's probably a taupe because taupe is not technically an Hermes color. and I think based on the picture that it is made of Swift, but it says that it was made in 2010 and it is adorned with a geometric collage of multicolored feathers. It was sold for almost $353,000 at the 2021 Christie's auction in Hong Kong, which is just insane. I am personally not familiar with this bag. It's not one that I have ever seen, but my assumption is that it is one of those really, really highly limited pieces that was actually inspired by a window display piece. So if you've ever been to Paris, to the Faubourg mothership, you might have noticed some really over-the-top, really creative, really revolutionary Hermes bags, which will never be available. However, every once in a while, they will inspire a crazy, outrageous Hermes bag, things like this one, that will make it into production. I mean, they will make a few of them, and they will be reserved for the true highly valued Hermes client, more often than not, the ones that shop in Paris. So I think this was an example of that. Another bag that comes to mind is, do you guys remember the Kelly Lettre, which is the bag that I bought as my special order bag? Now, I bought mine in regular skin, which is what was available at the time. However, for the mothership in Paris, they did produce a very, very limited number of those bags in exotic skins, including in a patchwork python finish, which is so incredibly rare for Hermes to do. They don't make anything out of python. My assumption is that python is not really the longest lasting leather, so they won't really make anything out of it. I mean, they have done a couple of things. I do have a pair of Izmir sandals out of python, but it's so rare for them to actually do a full-on bag in python, but they do them every once in a while. So if you shop in Paris and you're a really valued client, I almost said that you might get the chance to get a bag in python, which is really not the case, but one can hope. And if you do shop in Paris and you're a really valued client, that's really your best bet at getting your hands on something as special as a python bag, because they do them very, very rarely. And I assume this was something similar. I'm trying to think what other bags I can think of. Well, something that was a little bit more widely known was the bronze Birkins, which were launched, I think they did those bags in 2005, which was a range of Birkin bags that were made of the coolest, most eye-catching metallic leathers. They did them in size 25 and size 30, and those bags do still pop up on the pre-loved market or mainly at auction houses. They are insanely popular, and Hermes was supposed to bring those back in a mini Kelly in a more rosy finish, I think actually for spring summer 2023. I have not seen them, but I'm sure they are coming. So if it's something that you would like to get your hands on, I hope you have already put in a request for it, because I have no doubt that those are going to be insanely popular pieces, and they are quite special, unlike this one, which I guess this one is different. It does kind of remind me of a mocky patchwork carpet that you'd find in an abandoned building. It's not my favorite, but I guess if you have $353,000 to spend on a bag, more power to you. And if that's what you want to spend your money on, it's really none of my business. But all I'm gonna say is that it doesn't matter how much money I have. This is definitely not a bag that I would ever want to add to my collection. So I have been waiting for this bag to show up, which here we have the Himalaya Birkin in croc with a diamond finish. So the article does say that Christie's auctioned off two of the world's most expensive handbags in 2016 and 2017, fetching $300,000 and almost $400,000 for these highly coveted Birkin 30s that included 18 karat white gold and 9 to 10 carats of diamonds. So this is what you have to know about Himalaya bags. Himalaya is the name of the color. It's not the name of the bag. So a lot of people, when they say Himalaya, they will immediately think of the Birkin, but it's not only Birkins that come in the Himalaya colorway. Himalaya actually comes in two different colors. There's either white or gray Himalaya. More often than not, you will see Himalaya in white, but it does also exist in a darker shade. And believe it or not, most Hermes bags out there at one point existed in a Himalaya finish, including things like the Constance, the Kelly, the Birkin, even I've never actually seen a bolide, but I've seen a plume in Himalaya. I have seen orange sandals, riding boots, even ship in a Himalaya finish. So most things you can get in a Himalaya colorway, but obviously the most popular pieces in Himalaya are going to be Birkins and Kellys. And they not only make these bags with a regular palladium hardware, but you can also find these usually at auctions with a solid gold hardware with a pave diamond finish. But little known fact, if you're not a fan of the Himalaya colorways, you can actually get other Birkins and Kellys in other shades of croc with a solid gold hardware encrusted with diamonds, as well as Constance bags and Constance wallets. So you do have plenty of options. And one thing that is even more rare than these Himalaya bags, which you do see pop up quite often in articles and on social media, is bags that are encrusted with colored gems. So Hermes not only uses colorless stones on their bags, but they also use canary yellow diamonds and pink diamonds on some of their bags. And I know this because I have actually had the chance to talk to a craftsman who produced one of the most exclusive Hermes bags, which was a yellow Birkin or Kelly, I can't remember, that featured a yellow gold hardware with yellow diamonds that was specially made for one of their most valued clients. So yes, these are extremely rare bags. You don't see a lot of them out there, but believe it or not, they're not the rarest bags that Hermes has ever produced. And speaking of some of the most expensive Hermes bags, once you see this bag and some of the other bags that I have up my sleeve for you, $300,000 on a bag will sound like quite a deal, because the next bags that we have coming up are in the millions of dollars. Yes, you heard that right, millions of dollars. Now, these are not technically bags, even though you can use them as bags. They are technically part of the Hermes high jewelry line, and the one that they included on this list was the Hermes Ginza Tanaka bag. This is not a bag that was designed by Hermes. This was in collaboration with a Japanese jeweler that retailed for $1.9 million. It was made of solid platinum and it was encrusted with over 2,000 diamonds, including an 8-carat pear-shaped diamond, the article says, which this is a bag that I have seen pictures of, but it's not the bag that I'm most familiar with. What surprised me is that they didn't include the series of bags that Hermes did in 2012, because they did 4 bags inspired by some of the most iconic pieces in the Hermes range. They did have a Birkin made of solid rose gold that I think had something along the lines of, I think it featured almost like 90 carats of diamonds. The entire body of the bag was made of little tiny diamonds. They did have a Kelly where the body of the bag was made of solid gold and it was carved to resemble the most symmetric, beautiful crocodile skin, and then the flap was encrusted with diamonds. They did also do a bag inspired by their iconic Shandong motif, which is actually currently on display in Paris. A friend of mine is in Paris right now and she sent me a picture from the exhibition. So if this is a bag that you'd like to see, it is currently on display at the Shandong exhibition in Paris. And then they also did another bag which was inspired by the horsebite, which is my personal favorite. And all of those bags were made of solid gold. They featured tens and tens and tens of carats of diamonds. I think the heaviest carat weight was probably the Birkin, but I'm pretty sure that the Shandong bag featured something like almost 12,000 individual diamonds. So it is really just mind-blowing. And when it comes to Hermes bags, clearly the sky's the limit. And I don't think any one of these bags actually made it into production. I assume that if you wanted to get one of these bags, you had to put in a special request and one of these bags would have been specially made for you. So if you thought that the most ridiculous amount of money that one can spend on a bag was $300,000, well, this proved both of us wrong. And my friends, this brings us to the end of today's video discussing some of the most expensive Hermes bags out there. I hope you guys enjoyed it and it was something fun for you to see. I will make sure to have the article link down below for you in case you would like to look at some of the other bags that they included, because there were some brands that I wasn't really familiar with. So let me know if you have any questions, if you would like me to do a similar video on another brand, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to discuss in a future video. Please leave all your requests in the comment section, and don't forget to let me know what you think. And while you're down there, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I really appreciate you being here and watching, and I hope to see you back here with a new video really soon.